All right, so our next one assignment that we're going to be doing is going to be in here in 2560, Windows 19, green screen footage, and I need iPad, iPhone. No, we don't need all those. I just want to make sure I grab the right one. There we go. Okay. This was the one I wanted, the first one I grabbed. Okay, so if we want to track this one like we did the previous one, what's our issue going to be? His hand is in the way, right? Because we can't track the corners because his hand keeps going to the corners. If we go to this one, this is the one we had. His hand never touches the corners or the screen. Let's go to this one. And what do we have here? Hands touching the corner. So the same exact setup, right? So for this assignment, you can use any one of these shots where the person's hand or whatever goes inside there. This one you can't use because the camera doesn't move. That's cheating. This one, I think his hand, yep, his hand goes in front of it too. And then this one, his hand goes in front of it too. There we go. So the only one we can't use is the laptop one or the iPhone holding one, which is the one we already used. So you can use the iPad usage one, the iPhone touching one, the smartphone here, or the tablet there. The process is going to be nearly the same for each one of these. You're just going to have to tweak it and modify it for your specific one. I think I want to pick, I think I like this tablet one the best, maybe. Yeah, even though the camera is not moving, the iPad is moving, and that's what I care about. Okay, I will use this one. This will not be done in After Effects. After Effects lacks the ability to do what we need to do to get this thing to track. After Effects is good at point tracking, it's good at camera tracking, and by good I mean it can do it, not that it's like the best. But the next kind of tracking we need to do is not available here. I will show, not today, another day, how we can track this inside of Mocha, which is right there. But today I'm going to show the Nuke part because that's where we want to end up doing this anyway. So I need to render this out. So I'm going to render this in the render queue. Oops. I'm going to delete that because I want to first. I mentioned before I don't like those frames to be like crazy numbers. I'm going to reset my time code to 0. There we go. So this is manageable. And I'm also going to maybe take this down. I don't want to work with this at 3840. That's huge. It'll take forever. I'm going to down res it to 1280 by 720. So I just went to my comp settings and changed my start time, changed my resolution. I'll also go into my scale and set this to probably 25%. Oh, way off. 33.3. Perfect. All right, now I'll add that to my render queue. Oops. Click on the word lossless. Change this to TIFF, just like we did before. RGB, yes, 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 no changes there. Go to my output 2, put this inside of image sequence, new folder, iPad tracking, and then remember to change that underscore here right before the pound sign to a period, and then just hit save, hit render, and then let it go. Now, the process of what we're going to do is not going to be a corner pin, but the result of this will give us a corner pin, okay? What we need to do is track an area and then have the result of that area be a corner pin type thing. What software are we using today? Nuke. There we go. I don't need audio now. All right, so I'm going to read in my file. So I hit R for read. We know that already. We go to our folder, P drive, this 2560, tracking. And I'm fine with you putting everything in the tracking folder as long as it's organized inside there. iPad tracking, tablet scrolling, open. Okay, now before I proceed, I'm going to save this as, put this inside my tracking folder, call this Planar Tracking, make sure my name's on it, Sarcona. I can't spell my name today. Planar. And planar tracking is planar tracking, P-L-A-N-R-N-A-R. All right, okay. I've saved it. I'm going to hit S down here. Make sure I set up my project folder. This is the part where, if you remember from when we first talked about setting up Nuke, when you come in here from your home computer or your computer next door or whatever it is, you have to keep reloading your files. As long as you set this, open your project, it should find all your files for you. So I'm going to set this to my tracking folder because that's my project folder. This is my project. Everything should be good. My frame range is already read in, 0 to 212. 24, I think, is what they have here. Yes, 24. I'm going to set my work area to 1280 right there, and that should be good. All right, so close all these. Another thing I like to do is set this to 1. If you set that to 1, only the thing I've double-clicked on will show up. That makes your life a lot easier. So far, looking at some of these, as you're double-clicking on something or clicking on it, you aren't setting the right thing. You're adjusting sliders, nothing's changing. You set it to 1, every time you double-click, that's the only thing that's loaded in there. So if I added a grade node, now the grade node is the only thing that's loaded in there. So it just makes your life a lot easier when you do that kind of stuff. All right, cool. So that should be it. If I hit play, obviously the video plays and everything's successful. All right. So what I need to do is we need to track this. What was the thing we used before inside Nuke to track stuff? Tracker, thank you. Ooh, that's a close one. All right, so we just used a regular tracker, okay? Now, we're not going to use a tracker. I'm going to show you. This is part of the demonstration. If you follow the video and you start creating a tracker because you're watching it, not listening, then that's why. Oops. So I drag this to the corner. There we go. Okay, so if I were to track this forward, what is it going to be doing every single frame? What does it look for? Yeah, that same pattern, right? So it's looking for black here and green there and this white line there. Okay, that's what it's looking for every single frame. Okay, delete this, delete the tracker. Now what we want to do is create a planar tracker, and a planar tracker does something different. Instead of us having to create these 4 points in here, a planar tracker will grab an area and it'll track everything in that area that has contrast and figure out how all these pieces are moving. Okay, and if all these pieces are moving in a certain way, it'll figure out how the whole thing is moving. Now, what does the word planar mean?
Plane, or whatever.
You're good. Planar definition. Relating to or in form of a plane. Well, that's a stupid definition, isn't it? It's flat. That's what we're looking for here. That was the correct answer to this Jeopardy round. It's flat. So this object is flat. Our thing that we're tracking is flat. The area we're putting it is flat. That's planar. This is where planar works great. That person's face isn't flat. This would not be a good use of that. Okay? Most of the items that you track for this kind of thing are going to be flat. Your phone, this iPad, whatever it is. All right? Now, in a case where it's not flat, what we would have is distortion. Let's say I shot this with a GoPro. Anyone ever here shoot with a GoPro and then edit the video? Okay. What happens to the edges of it? It's fisheye, right? It's kind of round. So the same thing would happen here. So we're going to assume that this isn't distorted, and then we'll just hope for the best, okay? So I'm going to go to, scoot that down. I'm going to go to add a roto to this, okay? And a roto is our portal into being able to planar track this piece of footage. The way the roto works is we have our rotos down here. All I need to do is outline the shape of what I want to track. So I'm going to go into the Bezier, and I'm just going to create a shape right here. Now, with this, I don't need to be accurate. All I need to do is get a shape of about where I want to track. I haven't covered anything with his hand because I don't want his hand to get in there and kind of screw things up. Sometimes you're able to do it where the hand does come in and it works. We'll see what happens, okay? This is also Nuke X. This doesn't work in regular Nuke, I don't believe. I'm going to right click on the Bezier and I'm going to say Planar Track. Now that converts it. So now I have a folder, I have a Bezier. It made this alpha mask planar track.a. And then we got this bar up here, okay? So now, let me rewind this to the beginning. I'm going to say go ahead and track forward. There's the track button. And I'm going to let it go ahead and do its tracking. So what's happening now is it's going through this entire piece of footage and putting a whole bunch of points all over this thing and trying to figure out how all these points are moving from frame to frame to frame. So depending on how complex your piece is, it might have a lot more stuff going on. It might take a lot longer. This hand does go in there a little bit right there. And right there too. So I lied, his hand does go in there. So we'll just see what happens with this one. Now notice that when I added this planar track, we also got this tracking tab. That's where all of our settings are going to be. We don't get a separate tracker node. We get our roto. Inside the roto is all the tracking stuff. We might need to tweak it. We will see. Now I know in some of these I'm probably going to have to adjust it anyway because of his hand coming into frame. This reflection might be screwing with that, but just like all trackers, try the defaults, see what happens. This is taking longer because I'm recording and I have some other softwares at the bottom open, so that's why. If this was 3840, this would take probably 4 times as long to do this process, which is why I downsized it. And finally, okay, so there's our tracking. Now you can see definitely the tracker does move. We'll see if that affects it. Like I said, it probably will affect because right when his hand gets in there this time, that's when it kind of nudges. So we'll see. So I want to see this. That's what these buttons here are for. If I click on the display grid lines, this is basically like the plane, right? So if I have my tablet like this, the plane should be facing like that. If I have my tablet like this, the plane should be facing like that. So those lines should kind of mimic the same direction that my tablet is facing. As I rewind this to the beginning and play it, you can see there's that glitch where it kind of pops where his hand comes in. And way over here, holy cow, that's really off, right? So this is definitely not a good track. It's not working. So I'm going to have to undo this. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to clear everything forward, turn this grid off. All right, I'll wait. I'll be patient. Nuke will crash, maybe, maybe not. There we go. I will save. Yep, no tracking, good. I'm going to change the shape of this. So I'm just going to track this corner. I don't even think his thumb moves. Yeah, not really. So go back to the beginning, pull this down. All right, did anyone notice anything happening when I played it forward to the shape of this? Yep, shrink down and go back up, okay? The frame that I draw that on can change. It's auto-keyed. So I need to go to my roto and subtract the key from here, which I don't want. I only want my key to be right at the beginning, all right? So I'm tracking this area, and now I hit go again. Oops. I'm going to hit cancel, rewind this again. Okay, I'm going to go to my tracking options, and I'm going to say adjust for luminance. And I'm going to come over here and hit R, G, and B. And surprise, green is a very bright color to track. I should probably be tracking just the green channel, so I will do that. Adjust contrast, that's fine, that's fine. Okay. Now I will track again. And then we'll see. Just like our other one, it might be moving it, scaling it, rotating it, trying to find the right spot that gives us the best track. As much as you can get it automated, you want it automated. If you have to go through frame by frame and move it, typically you're going to see these like little wiggly parts. Now, even if we get a 90% and we have to adjust maybe 10% of this, that's better than trying to do this all by hand or something like that. So I don't see it kind of freaking out at all. It is moving a little bit, which is obviously what we want. But it looks like it's staying pretty close to the original shape. The screen, it might be hard to see, but the screen did have, at that other zoom, had a little bit of a pattern happening here, but I'm not really seeing that too much. When we watched the Game of Thrones scene, you may have noticed as they're doing these camera sweeps, they have the green screen there. Did you notice anything about the green screen? What was on it? Plus signs. Typically when they shoot green screens, they put these plus signs on it. Those plus signs allow you to track something on a green screen. So if he had this green screen, but he had little plus signs on it, we're replacing the green anyway, so it doesn't matter what's on it. We just want something to track. So that's what they use those for, so they can track just those little other areas. And they actually make, while we're waiting for this for 8 more seconds, tracking markers. There you go. So they make these kinds of things, these kinds of things, those kinds of things. Here's another example of these kind of in action. Okay, and they'll paste them literally all over the place so that they can see where they are tracking. And in some cases, they've actually made like little sticky things where they just throw them on the wall and they emit some sort of light that the cameras can pick up and track better. All right, so now that looks like that's a much better track. So let's turn the plane on. Doesn't matter how crazy looking it is now. If I hit play or just scrub through, I can see that it is following his movement pretty good. Okay, I might need to adjust it later. That's fine. I'll adjust it later. All right, so now my area that I tracked is this corner. I want to translate that data to the entire thing. The idea with this is if you track a small piece, because the entire thing is a plane, I should be able to adjust it and everything should still move with it. So I'm going to turn on my planar surface, which is that. You'll see it's very close to like this thing. And I'm going to turn on this, which is my corner. I'm sorry, that's right, yeah. This, which is my corners. And I'm just going to move this down here. Okay, so this is my corner pin. So it's not like After Effects where we just say do a corner pin and it creates it. We're actually saying, okay, now that you have the shape, this is where I want my corners to be. So I can zoom in, I can get this locked up. I'm putting it a little bit further than the green. I'm also at frame 0. Anytime you do these adjustments, you want to be at frame 0 or wherever you started your tracking at. Because it will auto key. If I go, let's say, to frame 50 and I do this, it will go back to where it was at frame 0, like in that weird spot. Then I have to go back to frame 0 and fix it. All right, so now here's the tricky one. Obviously, we have the 3 corners. We don't have this one. You should be able to estimate where that 4th corner is at just by figuring out where those 2 lines are going to converge, right? So if you just look at where this yellow line is off and this one is on, if I just kind of move this to about there, that will work, or should work. Now that's it. If I hit play here, you'll see that this goes with it. It is off a little bit there. It's off a little bit there, but it's not horrible. It's in the black still, which is good. Okay? So I can't see my settings, so I need to scoot this over a little bit. There we go. So many more settings here. Cool. This is where we can actually create all that stuff. So just like before, we have relative, absolute, and stabilize for corner pin. We also have relative, absolute, and stabilize for baked. We are going to do a baked relative for now. Where'd you go? There you go. All right. So this is a relative bake. I'm going to double click it. And one thing we'll notice is at the start of this, you can see all of these are blue. Those are the keyframes. If I go to the From tab, there's no keyframes here, but there are values. Let me jump back to this. Let me jump back to, I really hate that I have to do that. You're so close. There you go. Planar. Let me do the absolute one. Let me shrink that back in. Let's look at the absolute one. All of these are still the same values. All those are keyed. If I go to the From, you'll see these say 0, 0, 1280, 0, and that. Okay? So one of these is basically setting it up to be a linked to the composition size. One of these is saying this is how big your rectangle is. That's how big your item is going to be. None of those matter because we'll fix it later on. So if you choose relative or baked, that doesn't matter because we will adjust which one we use anyway, okay? So that part doesn't matter. All right, now, just like before, this is tracking data. That means nothing to us. We just set it aside. We got the information right here. If this is a project that we're working on with the team, we can give them the piece of footage, which they should have already, and we can give them just this. And then that should give them enough information to do what they need to do, okay? So now I need to bring something in. As before, you want to look at what your sizes are. So I'm pretty sure that's an iPad, screen, resolution, and 2048 by 1536. So you will make a document that is that big. For now, I'm just going to make a checkerboard. And I'm going to go down to the new size here. And I'm going to say iPad. And then I'm going to try to remember stuff. 2048 by 1536. Now he's holding it sideways, so those numbers will be flipped. 1536. There we go. Hit OK. All right, so now I'm going to take either one, doesn't matter, connect it to here. And then I'm just going to merge my checkerboard onto my iPad. And then view it. Now, this is what we get. With the absolute one, it's coming in at these crazy sizes because it's trying to bake it based off of this resolution of here, not the resolution of that. If I just say set to input, it automatically fits it, okay? So that's why that doesn't matter because all we would do is click on these buttons anyway to fit it to the exact size of something we're bringing in. So now, we close that, we hit play, and then we preview it and test it out and make sure that it looks like it's working. Now we do see a little bit of slippage there at the bottom. You can see as the green screen kind of pops out a little bit. I'll go to 100 and then I'll rewind it and just hit play. And then we'll look at it and see. All right, let's go there. Let's rewind this. All right, so you can see there definitely was a little bit of slip right at the beginning where the green kind of popped out. Now this is one of the things I like about Nuke's corner pin. We have this and we have that. We have two different areas that we can tweak what this looks like. It doesn't matter where you tweak this. If you want to do it right here, you can do it right there. All I would have to do is just go into here. There's pin 2. I would just drag this back to where that is. And then here's pin 1, drag this, so that's lined up again. And then I would go up a frame and then just keep doing that same thing. Okay, now it's just for those couple frames, so it's not a huge deal. Obviously, we want to make sure that it seems like it's flowing. It doesn't feel like it's flowing here. Move that down just a little bit more. There we go, it's better. And same thing here, I'll pull that down. That's lined up. Pull this down so that's lined up. Okay, it's still a little bit off. All right, that's better. Now go back and just tweak those other points. Cool. So that's that part. Now let's get rid of the green screen because that's kind of annoying having the green screen there. Because even if we do have it kind of poke out a little bit, it'd be much better if the green just wasn't there at all. You can do like I showed in the other one, which is just put a black constant here. Constant. Oh, I have to spell it right. There we go. There we go. Put a black constant here. You'll see again, it doesn't come in at the right size. I just go to here, go to from, say set to input, and boom, it fits the same size. If I see where it pokes out a little bit there, I can go into this area and I can nudge these points. Okay, so this is without setting any keys. This is just me kind of going through and tweaking where those points are basically originating from. And I'm just using my scroll wheel to adjust these points. There it goes. Okay, so now the green screen is gone. It's just black now. Okay, it still needs a little bit of work. It is kind of flickery at the top now because of that. I'll fix that. Okay, cool. So that gives us a black screen. Now I still want to get rid of this actual green screen. So I'm going to add a key light. Oops, key light. Come on. Go there. All right, so here's how key light works. You pick a screen color. What is the color of the screen? And then you simply just start playing with the settings until it works. I click here. This is the eyedropper. You can control click, and that will pick a single dot. You can see that single dot right there. If I control shift click, I can, it's kind of freaking out. Let me disable the node for a second. If I control shift click, I can marquee, and what this does is it selects an average. All those pixels that are there in the center, that's the average of what my selection is. If there are different values of green inside here, we may want to grab an average, okay? I'm going to re-enable that. Now here's one of the things. If I control click and control click and control click, notice how it's going from green to black to green to black. It's also because when I control click the green, it selects green. When I control click a second time, it's clicking black because that's the color that's there. But if I control click, oops, control alt click, there it is, it will only select the green color. So you can see where I choose that green, you can see the person's face in here. Wow, you can't see it there. Where I control click or control alt click can really change where that color is coming from. So that is a lot better of a green screen removal than this was, right? Because you can see obviously the person. Up here, that's better. Now we always want to check 2 to see if there's a transparency, so I'll hit A for alpha. We should get the ideal perfectly white everywhere but the screen, perfectly black where the screen is, except for maybe some reflection area, okay? We are definitely seeing some not perfectly black areas in there, and we're seeing some little bits of gray right here. So this is where we can start to play. We don't need to play with everything here, just a few things. One of them is screen gain. As I pull this up, you can see how it makes the black, black, okay? Pull that back down to 1. Here's screen balance. I can push it this way to go more darker, and then this way to go more white. That's fine where it was at 0. And then the next area I jump to is screen matte, and this is where you really play with it. So a couple things I want to do is get rid of this. So I'm going to start clipping the white. And you'll see as I drag that clip to the white, it just gets rid of that. Okay? Think of this as a levels for this black and white image. This got rid of that. Now I'm going to go and clip the black, and that gets rid of that. Okay? Now I can use that in combination with screen gain too. This is a pretty ideal situation what I have. I lost the reflection, but I can put that back in later. So now I'll look at this. I'll hit A. Let me disable, oops, let me just go here. There it is. hit play there. Okay, now we shouldn't lose the person's finger as they're swiping up. If his finger is just gone, that means we've eaten away too much of that green screen. And so this was, to your question, Aaron, do we ever need to roto that too? Let's say the green is perfect, but as his hand comes down, let's say we've just eaten away maybe too much of his finger. Then we have to go through and roto just his finger and track that moving down.
So just for that one shot or for the rest of the shot?
For the whole, for wherever you need it. If it's the whole shot, then the whole shot. It's basically just masking. You're just drawing with the pen tool to say I want to use this and not use that. Now we'll notice here around his finger is kind of this like gray area. As you do a key, what happens is it removes the green, and then in those in-between areas where his finger is here and the green screen's there, it tries to counteract it by putting a gray in there. So that's where this spill, oops, where's my spill? Right here, is coming out to this color, just to make it really crazy color. I'll make it blue. I guess really not getting a whole lot there. Yeah, never mind. There we go. I'll change it to source, and then you can see definitely there's the green. Soft color. There we go. It's a little bit softer. Okay, so that's what that's doing, is replacing it with some of that. That's not too big of a deal. Typically, as long as you get something as far as it cut away, when you come back later, then you can start to tweak all that other stuff. All right. So what that gives us is this, a perfect alpha channel that we could then use. So when I come into here, his hand is gone. I want to then go into my mask and start to adjust some of my settings. So let's go here. This is the bottom. Let me hit Shift X. That swaps these so that now the constant is now the background, which is what it should be. This is on top. This is below it. Perfect. Okay, it did eat into his finger a little bit here. So maybe I'll go to the key light and then adjust some of these. Too much. Let's go into screen gain. No, we might just have to adjust that afterwards. Sometimes it's not a big deal because of what you have on the screen. We'll just have to see what we end up with. All right, so delete that checkerboard. There's that. Here's this, and there's that. Okay, so now I have this black constant here. I would delete the black constant and load in whatever I want. As I like to do a little placeholder to figure out what's happening. Oops, I don't want to delete the black constant. I want to double click it. I want to go here. I want to go to iPad, yes. And then I want to go to my corner pin and say set to input. And that broke it. Settings, 1280 by 720, yes. It stretched it out because I have something set wrong. Let's see, this is that, yes, this is that, that's that. I'm going to reformat my card here to be 1280 by 720. Yes, but it should just fit it. I'm going to go to crop. Whoops. Oh, come on. It's not crop. No, I'm going to backdrop, that's why. There we go, reformat. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so I had to add a crop after this. The size of this one was different than the size of that one, so when they came together, it was kind of freaking out with how I did it. So I added a crop node, changed the size to 1280 by 720, and then everything's happy. His finger goes right on top of it. Okay. So now what I have to do is I have to get some placeholders in here so that I can figure out what kind of animation I want to have. It makes no sense to try to go into, let's say, After Effects, create an animation and try to bring it in and then try to sync all that up without having a plan for this. So I'm going to create just a simple shape here. And actually, I'm just going to borrow a bullseye. Actually, I'll just draw a bullseye. Oh my gosh. Roto. There we go. So you can bring in a shape. I'm just going to create this little plus sign here. That. And I'm just going to give this a color. Yep, there we go. That was it. White. Good. Okay. All right. So this is, I guess I'll make this a different color too so you can kind of see it. All right, so this is my yellow background that I just changed for my constant. There it is. So what I want to do is I'm going to use this roto and just create a shape that will then animate for this roto as he's touching the screen, okay? So we're going to kind of have to work at the end of this to see what it looks like, but work above it to kind of move things around, right? So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to add a transform because I want to be able to move it. And then I'm going to add a merge, whoops, onto this. Okay, so now I have this little plus sign right here. I'm going to move that plus sign wherever his finger hits. And then as his finger moves down and swipes, I'm going to animate this thing going down. So what I should have, what my goal is to have at the end of this part, is I would have an animation of these little plus signs moving that I could then take into After Effects, make an animation, and then bring that back into here. Okay? I'm just going to do the plus sign part, and then the other part I'll do on Wednesday. Cool. So I need to work down here. I need to look at this. I need to make sure that this corner pin is going into this merge. There's the plus sign. You can see how it's kind of on an angle too. So now we're just watching. So here comes his finger. Boom, right there is where he touches. So I move this down here. There it is. It's like already perfect. Set a keyframe. Scroll up to the top. Okay, right there he lets off. So then I slide this straight up there. Nope. I'm just going to manually do this one. Just kind of put it in there. Adjust this here. Okay, because in this case, I'm kind of figuring that he's like swiping up like it's a web page or something. If it was an icon, you know, you could track it, but you don't need to. All right, so that's one, right? So he swipes it once, goes up. And then he comes back and does it again. So now I need a second one of these. Let go. There we go. So now I'm going to take this setup, copy it, paste it, and then merge this, A here, B there. Now on the second transform, I just need to delete the animation. Yes. And then this is why it's important to have just that top one loaded, because if I had two of these transforms here, both positions would be showing up. So here's where his finger is at the bottom, right there. We set a key. We go to where his finger is done, right there. Scoochie that up. And then we can just kind of go through and adjust it. His hand moves pretty straight, so it's not a big deal if we're, you know, a little bit off there. But that's good there. Okay, and now, what is he doing now? Swiping down? Idiot. All right, so now let's do this again. So we copy again, paste, merge. Double click the transform, delete the keys. Yes. And that's where he's starting. Now, if this is a page swiping down, that's not going to matter for left and right position because we're just kind of getting the page moving up and down. And right there he lets off. go. So you see I'm only just dropping in a couple keyframes kind of as he's moving. And then another one, sure, why not? Let's swipe down again. Just did nothing today at all, just swipe down. Then let's merge that, merge this. Transform, no animation. You start up there. There was a project I did before that was very similar to this kind of setup, where a guy was like shooting a gun, obviously with blanks, at a screen, and you have to go through and like if he shoots, let's say 50 times, you have to put 50 different ones of these markers in here, and then later come back and actually put what you want the bullet holes to look like. So the same process regardless of its iPad screen or whatever. There we go. All right. Obviously, this is a huge mess. We would clean this up. Here's my constant. Here is this. You can stay there. And these ones will go here. These ones will go here. And this is, again, placeholder stuff. This is just so we have something laid out so that we can see where these things are happening. And this is where we get, more complex with our stuff because we obviously have this area that's tracking, this area that's our green screen, this area that's our placeholder, and then this area is our corner pin cropping, and then this area is where everything merges together. Okay, when we're done, we'll have just this movie coming into the corner pin, and then it'll feed right into that. Okay, so it'll be a little bit simpler. We can delete that one. Cool. So now if we were to rewind this, take the resolution down to 1/6, that's horrible, 1/4, that's better. We can just preview this a little bit quicker and see if it kind of looks like he's doing it. And definitely I could go back and kind of tweak those a little bit more. There we go. Yeah, that one especially at the front I think probably could use a little bit of touching up. But like I said, if he's just scrolling the page up and down, it's not going to matter too much. Cool. Oops. So now what I would do is I would just write out what this looks like. Okay? If I look at just this, that's what we created. This is just a flat image with where these plus signs are moving up and down. We would take that in After Effects and use it as a base layer for adding our animation of what we want to happen. Send that out, bring it back to Nuke, and then we have timing set up and everything. So I would just write this to my folder here. I wish it would just jump to my folder. 60. Tracking, artwork. iPad placeholder. And I will call this iPad placeholder dot pound 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 dot tiff with one F, LZW, and render. Global. Okie dokie. There we go. So then bringing this into After Effects, set that up. I'll go through the After Effects part next class, but that should be, that's the process for this kind of thing. With corner pin, he's interacting with it, regardless of which piece of footage you picked here. That's not the one I picked. He's still interacting some way, and so you would still have those same things. Here, you can actually track maybe this whole area or maybe this hand area inside here to see where that's lined up. Here's the iPhone, same kind of thing, especially where his hand is hitting. Instead of using a tracker to say he's hitting, I may want to actually animate the merges of each one of those things coming on instead. Just like I showed on the other one, if I take this merge and I animate this kind of coming on and off, I can animate every time he hits a button, that button kind of clicking on and going off. So just as a, for instance, we're just viewing this one for now. This is off. Oops. Well, let me keep it on for a second. There we go. Okay, so it's right before he touches it, it's off. Then I go up a couple frames or two, set that on. There it is. Set a key, go up one, turn it off. So now, just like the other one, you see, and it goes off. So if he's doing something that's more like this, it's going to be more helpful to animate those merges coming on and off to show he's hitting these specific keys. Even though it looks like I think he's hitting the same 5 keys over and over again, I'm not sure what exactly he's typing here. Yeah, he's just hitting like 5 and 9 over and over again. And, yep. We're just swiping right, swipe right, swipe right. All right, cool. So once you're done with the iPhone one, then you can start working on this one, which is the corner pin one. Get your track down first. Make sure your corner pin is good. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect right away. We can always come back to this guy and fix it, and then come and replace this one. Same thing with the key. This doesn't have to be perfect yet. We can always come back and fix it later on. Just kind of get those placeholders in, just so you can see how things are going to be working in here, and then, like I said, come back and correct it. Cool. Questions yet? No, there never are. I'm going to stop asking, I think.